And finally, verses 29 and 30 and 40a, the appointed time. Recall the chiastic structure of Daniel 11. The history of verses 5 through 15 colors or flavors the understanding of verses 23 through 12:3. That is, it adds information to these verses that helps in their understanding. So let's look at these verses. Here is a summary of the history contained in Daniel chapter 11 and the first 3 verses of chapter 12. The verses of interest to us are verses 5 through 15, which is the history of the king of the north and the king of the south, 2 of the Hellenistic kingdoms that result from the division of Alexander the Great's empire to the 4 winds of heaven, verses 3 and 4. In Daniel 8, the king of the north and the king of the south were 2 of the 4 horns that arose on the goat after its great horn was broken. Daniel 11, 5 through 15, the king of the north and the king of the south, the divisions of Alexander the Great's empire. Here's Judea, the land of Daniel's people, after the Babylonian captivity. To the north, the king of the north, the house of Seleucus. And to the south, the king of the south, the house of Ptolemy, the king of Egypt. Now zooming in on the line of confrontation between the 2 kings, notice the island. It is the island of Cyprus. From the color of the island, it is obvious that it is part of Ptolemaic Egypt. Returning back to the previous view of Alexander's divided empire, the king of the north, the house of Seleucus, is the king of Babylon. But there is more. Hippolytus of Rome, 170 to 235 AD. Babylon equals Rome. Our source? For he sees, when in the isle Patmos, a revelation of awful mysteries, which he recounts freely and makes known to others. Tell me, blessed John, apostle and disciple of the Lord, what didst thou see and hear concerning Babylon? Arise and speak, for it sent thee also into banishment. Hippolytus of Rome, Treatise on Christ and Antichrist, Section 36. Roberts, Alexander, and James Donaldson, editors, the Ante-Nicene Fathers. Buffalo Christian Literature Company, 1886, Volume 5, page 211. We know that church tradition, without exception, teaches that John was sent to Patmos by Rome. Thus, Hippolytus is clearly implying that Babylon is a code name for Rome. Eusebius, 260 to 341 AD. Babylon equals Rome. Our source? And Peter makes mention of Mark in his first epistle, which they say that he wrote in Rome itself, as is indicated by him when he calls the city by a figure, Babylon, as he does in the following words, "The church that is at Babylon, elected together with you, saluteth you, and so doth Marcus my son." 1 Peter 5:13. Eusebius, Church History, Book 2, Chapter 15. Schaff, Philip, and Henry Wace, editors. A Select Library of Nicene and Post-Nicene Fathers. Series 2, New York, Charles Scribner's Sons, 1904, Volume 1, page 116. Eusebius, in agreement with Hippolytus, says that Babylon is a code name, or in his own words, a figure for Rome. So we see then that both the king of the north of verses 23 through 12:3, the bishop of Rome, and the king of the north of verses 5 through 15, the house of Seleucus, are equally the kings of Babylon. This is not surprising, though. We should expect this as a natural fallout of the chiastic structure of Daniel 11. Returning back to the structure of Daniel 11, verses 23 through 40, for we have not yet explained verses 29 and 30 and 40a, the appointed time. Daniel 11, 29 and 30 and 40a, at the time appointed, the time of the end. 1. The king of the north attacks the king of the south, paganism, atheism. Verse 29. At the time appointed, he, the king of the north, shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. 2. The king of the south, paganism, atheism, attacks the king of the north and defeats him. Verse 30a. For the ships of Chittim, Cyprus, recall Cyprus is part of Ptolemaic Egypt, the king of the south shall come against him, paralleled by verse 40a, and at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him. 3. The king of the north returns and acts against the covenant, verse 30b. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Note, recall the equivalence of the time appointed, or appointed time, and the time of the end. Even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Verse 35.